Hi everybody, I just wanted to give a quick video update of what life in Costa Rica has been like for me and what's going on down here with ministry amidst the COVID-19 crisis and what all is happening with that and with my ministry and what life looks like. So first of all, our COVID-19 update in Costa Rica, there are 314 confirmed cases within all of Costa Rica. There's 2 deaths, there's 3 recuperated and 3,000 dismissed cases. Where I'm living, I'm in a medium risk zone. So each zone around me has about 10 confirmed cases. So the worst zone that's in our area, which is Alajuela, and that's the canton that has the most confirmed cases, is about 55. And so that's on the other side of the city for me. And downtown San Jose has 30 confirmed cases. So where I'm at, I'm kind of in this medium risk area. Where we do a lot of our street ministry and our red zone work with Casa Esperanza, with the Hope House, that's called the red zone. That whole area is like isolated and quarantined right now. They have 10 or more cases confirmed just in this 10 block radius alone. And so we haven't been in there and been able to do ministry for the last 2 weeks or so. We closed down and haven't been able to do ministry there. Most of the cases nationwide are in the Central Valley where we live and where our ministry is. So it's taken quite a toll on our ministry. So the country is technically in a red alert status, emergency status, and we are all on stay-at-home quarantine, and all public gatherings are closed. Schools have been closed for 2 weeks. There's restrictions on cars. So at 8 p.m. on weekends, between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m., and then on work days, it's 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., you're not allowed to drive your car. And if you're found driving your car without an excuse, or without like a valid excuse, then you get a ticket of like $50. The marketplaces, most stores are only letting in 1 person per group, and you have to, do the social distancing. A lot of businesses are closed, and buses are only doing a certain amount of people, like operating at 50%. So there's a lot of toll already on the Costa Rican economy, and that's already taken a toll, and it's been pretty hard just already. The airlines, there's airlines are not flying internationally out of Costa Rica after the end of March, and so I've been getting updates that are saying if you are not a Costa Rican resident, then you need to leave immediately. And they've actually changed and said that due to this, if you are a Costa Rican resident and you leave the country, you lose that status and you are not allowed to come back in, and you lose that status permanently during this COVID-19 crisis. So the Costa Rica is taking some pretty major steps to keep the country safe, and a lot of that's due to we have a lot of our neighboring countries, Nicaragua and Panama, are not really doing a lot to control COVID-19, and so they're worried of the damage that will happen to Costa Rica from Nicaraguans coming in and out with resident status, especially during Semana Santa, which is Easter. A lot of people try to go home during that week and come back, and so it's kind of not quite a strict lockdown. Like, we're still allowed to leave the house, but pretty much everything's closed, so there's not a lot that you can go do if you were to leave, except grocery stores. So all that said, my situation now, I live in this awesome apartment, but I had 4 roommates before. 3 of my roommates went back to the US and 1 went back to the UK. So currently I'm living home alone with Cholula. And so my roommates took the decision to go home because they were not prepared to be here for long term like me, and or they weren't planning on being here, or they just weren't quite as prepared for staying through the national crisis like this, global pandemic. So for me, that means that, I've been alone the last week, but I have missionary friends. My ministry director has been very supportive. I've gone and stayed with her a couple nights because we've both been in quarantine. So 2 quarantine people, when they come together, I think it's okay. And then our friends, I have other friends in the ministry that are very, very supportive. And so doing good. So I have made the decision to stay in Costa Rica and serve through here. I mean, I made the decision back in October to move here and to make this my home. And so I am covered 100% medically internationally. So if I were to get sick, I'm going to be okay. I have my support base and my prayer base back home. I was called here, so this is my home now, and I'm here to stay and stick it out and to serve through it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's pretty weird being here. It's kind of pretty surreal, and to not be with my friends and family back home, especially my parents and my sister-in-law in Georgia while my brother's in deployed. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a weird crisis, but it's all worked out, and you can tell that God's got it all under control. All right, so what does all of that mean for our ministry? Our ministry, all of our gatherings are canceled, so because they're public gatherings. So most of our ministry we do in Casa Esperanza, in the Hope House, and on the streets, and our street church, as well as our Safe House, our Freedom House. Is all groups of 10 or larger. So the question is, how do we continue to serve and serving our people during these times when we are not allowed to be in contact with our people physically? So our staff, we've gone down to Zoom meetings, pretty much like everyone else, I'm sure. For Casa Libertad, for our Freedom House, they've come because it's a group home, and there's 15 girls living in the home right now. And if one of those girls were to get sick, all of them will get sick. And so we've started a very strict schedule where only 2 caretakers are in with the girls every day for a 24-hour period. They come in at 8 a.m. and they leave at 8 a.m. the next day. And there's strict scheduling and sanitary protocol, and they are not going to school. They're not leaving the house. So they're on very strict lockdown because of their group home setting. That being said, I am not one of the caretakers that's been in there. So it's been hard for me to be away from them, and hard to kind of keep my routine since I was going in with them a lot. But the Safe House is still safe. It's up and running, and we're doing great there. For our friends in the streets, we have started a food pantry, kind of. It's called Face of Food. We're calling it Face of Food. The goal is, during this time, the goal is to provide our friends on the streets with food, because during this time, our population is all people in situations of homelessness and prostitution. And especially during this time, human contact is not anything that anyone's doing, so prostitution is a no-go, and so they're forced to find money somewhere else. And it's actually quite encouraging to see some of our women in the red zone who are using skills that they've learned through the jewelry class that I teach, or their sewing and Free the Girls program, which is selling bras. Some of them are selling perfumes and other items, and they're being kind of forced out of that into different ways of earning a living. And so it's still not enough though, and it's still really hard. It's hard economic times for everyone right now, and especially these women who are usually already going meal to meal. So we started Face of Food, and our goal is to raise enough funds to get bags of food that will have the essentials: rice, beans, oil, vegetables, the very basics in there. Our goal is to get 40 bags of food for the women in the red zone that we know from the Hope House, and 20 bags of food for friends in the streets through our Encuentro program. And we are going to disperse those foods and and support our friends that way, even though we can't be going with our regular meetings. We also keep in contact with them. I have been messaging them and checking in with them, and that I think is the biggest thing to make sure that no one feels left alone and forgotten, that everyone is seen and everyone is heard and loved is especially, so huge while everyone is locked away in their homes. That is, even for us, like for me, the biggest part is people checking in and making that connection, even though we can't be there in person. And in other new news, it's pretty exciting. So to give you some background, God gave me this desire to provide girls from the safe house, a warm and loving family home environment back in November, and when I first got here. And I've been praying what that would look like, since I'm single and living in an apartment with other roommates, and what that would look like. And so one of the girls in the safe house turned 18 a couple weeks ago, and because our safe house is only 12 to 17 years old, because of the laws and different laws with the Child Protective Services here, she needs to find another home to go and somewhere to live. And so I started praying about the possibility of having her come live with me, and brought it up with our ministry director and my roommate Elise, who is also here long term. And with these short-term missionaries who are sadly back home in the US and the UK now, that actually excitingly opens up a room for this girl who's 18, whose name is Miriam. And so after a lot of prayer and consideration on what that would look like, Elise and I have decided that living in our apartment will be a safe place for Miriam to continue her growth and healing. And so a little bit about Miriam. Miriam has a mental delay, but with a lot of time and support, we as a team fully believe that she will have so much success in her life and be able to live an autonomous lifestyle. And so although this is going to be a short-term, month-by-month commitment here in the apartment, I'm personally super excited to give her and support her with growing towards her goals of independence and autonomy, with things like keeping a normal schedule, a daily schedule routine, cleaning, learning how to use the buses, banks, cooking, things that you need to do as an adult, that, millennials, #adulting, that a lot of us were taught, or that we figure out that she needs to be explicitly taught. And so something else that is just a complete blessing is that we in our apartment, the people upstairs, have a beauty school. And so we are hoping that we can get her a scholarship into the beauty school that is just upstairs from us. And during her time with us, she'll continue her high school and her education. And then she also really loves dance and ballet. And so she'll continue that as well, and try to keep her schedule as normal as possible, while also implementing new independence and autonomy to continue her and further her growth. So while we're still figuring out that timeline, I will continue to post updates on how that is all coming together. But I think something that Elise and I were processing this, Elise sent me a paragraph from one of her devotionals by Goff, and it struck home with both of us. Is, a lot of people might be concerned, like, oh, well, you whatever our situation is, but both Elise and I know that God has called us to live like Jesus did, and that, and this is what the devotional said. It says, we are to welcome people who look like strangers, to offer places in our home for those with nowhere to go, to be friends with the lonely, the ones who were told they weren't worthy of love. The Bible is constantly talking about care for widows and orphans, the most vulnerable in society. We don't need more Bible studies about the will of God before deciding to simply do this. And so we have both heard a clear answer from God, and it's a bold yes, that this is something that that we are called into doing, is supporting and providing a home for people with nowhere to go. for this girl who has nowhere to go and that we love dearly already and that we know and who knows us. So that's my exciting news. If you would like to support during this time, there's a couple ways that you can be supporting in the different ways that in the different ministries. First, it would be to send money in a note to me, and I can use that directly to support the women in the red zone. I will also attach photos of earrings, perfumes, sewings of the things that they are doing, and you can choose to purchase those things to support those women directly during this time of economic crisis for them, and then I can work out shipping and get those items to you, and that would be that one-on-one support for our women in the red zone. You can donate money to Face of Food to purchase bags for our friends in the streets who are normally already living meal to meal and are now going many days without food and need their food support. And that link I will have in the video attached to this video as well. And then donate. Another way is to donate money to purchase crafts and exercise equipment for the girls in the safe house while they are quarantined in the house. Imagine having 12 to 17-year-old girls living in the house and trying to occupy their time for a full 3 weeks already. So they would appreciate crafts, exercise equipment to keep them busy, everything that, anything that you would specifically suggest is a great support during this time. And then lastly, just always the prayer support. If you are unable to send money, or if you are able to send money, please just be praying, because that is the biggest thing that you can do to support us. We need support for health and safety. We need support for vision during this time on how to keep serving our people. We need prayer support for the coming months when this is still playing out. Just prayer support for our friends who are in the streets, who are struggling and are already vulnerable to health crises, that they would be protected and not get sick. I've heard so many people already send me messages that they know of people who are sick or are sick with different various things. And so just continue prayer support for our friends in the streets, our girls in the safe house, our staff who is constantly putting themselves at risk every day with the COVID-19. They are not able to go home and stay at home. So our wonderful staff who is the caretaking for our girls day in and day out. And I would just love prayer for our ministry director as well, Ellie. She is an amazing warrior, and so just pray for her to have clear vision for our ministry and how she sees God working with the women and the men and the girls in the streets and in our programs and in our home. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. I know it's a long one. I had a lot to say, but I appreciate your prayer and support. Any questions, message me. Once again, I'll put all of the things on how to support down. Also, I guess people always say down below, click to subscribe. I don't know. But yeah, I'll put all of that and attach that so that you are also able to support and prayer support as well. Thank you guys. I love you all, and I'll hear from you soon. Bye.